ラックス、それならチルする
チル
リラクゼーションドリンクチルアウト。
アメンボ赤いなゆえ。はい、こんばんは。こんばんは。よいしょ。ララさん体験ありがとうございます。急に始まる。今完全に起動したばかりの画面が表示されております。こんばんは。とりあえずチルアウトを飲みます。チルアウトを飲みます。ララさんこんばんは。チルアウト飲みます。開かない。開いた。いや、一息足りない。一息が足りない。一息。よし、オッケー。開いた。こんばんは。いや、本日でチルアウト様の、スポンサードが最終日となりました。最後まで宣伝します。美味しいです。いや、ここ1ヶ月半くらい飲み続けてきた、リラクゼーションドリンク。メンボ赤いなゆ。ザナイさんがこんばんは。ともよこしベイビーさんこんばんは。みくくまさんこんばんは。ただいま、チルアウトを飲んでおります。こんばんは。音量とか大丈夫でしょうか？これを、本当このゲームを起動したばかりで何もわかりませんが、スクリーンと字幕の言語はこれで、おそらくは、ありがとうございます。これに、前にスタンリーズ・バーレルプレイしたことがありますか？プレイしたことはない。パソコンがギリギリ見えるぐらいまで。かな。メンバーがいない。現在の時刻。PM。9時。じゃあ9時4分になったら始めます。23こんばんは。9時4分まで待機。いやー、チルアウト美味しいです。9時4分になりました。アクセシビリティ設定はメニューからアクセスできます。はい。セッティング。視野角。視野角とかある。じゃあ、プラス。で、まあ大体。大丈夫かな？じゃあ、音量などは大丈夫でしょうか？じゃあ、これ、早速。始めさせていただきますね。始める。ネバーサイン。いや、このゲームスチームのセールで買ったんですけど、できてない。
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
はい。
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year.
単純作業はちょっとなんか大変そうですね。
Every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job.
なるほど。
And Stanley was happy.
幸せ。
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
挙動がなんか滑ってるみたいな感じなんですよね、これ。同僚を探しに行くらしいんですけど。
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
乗れる。めっちゃ滑ってるみたいな挙動です。滑る、これ。で、同僚を探しに行くと。OK だ。右クリで、いや、左クリックで触れるんですけど、なんか、マウスの右側のボタンでもなんか、走ってるみたいな。I have no artists? 開かない。閉まっちゃった。開かない。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左に入る。があって、はい。でも入れないんですかね。この先に何が待ち受けているのでしょうか。閉められちゃう。開いた。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
上の階の上司のオフィスに行く。なんかこれわかんないんですけど、これ、今左クリックしてるんですけど、なんか左クリックしてるのになんか、なんだろう、キーボードを叩くみたいな音がするんですよね、ここ。なんでしょうね、これ。滑る。開いた。
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
はいはい。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
上に上司の部屋がある。こっちかな。これは普通に上司の部屋じゃそう。ここは上司の部屋じゃそうです。こっちは閉まってる。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
教えてくれるんだ。
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
845ですっけ?
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly
めっ
opened
ちゃ教えてくれるじゃん。
passageway.
ノスさんこんばんは。なんかナレーターが誘導してるみたいな。暗くて見えない。暗くて見えない。あ、なんか出てきた。こっちは閉まってる。ああ。裏？上から落ちてきたりしないですよね。秘密教えちゃうナレーターさん。教えてるのかなんやらの。暗すぎてわかんないです。おお。あ、ラボライト。
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
あ、戻れない。あ、戻れた。
Whoops. Nope. Never mind.
あれ?
Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's
怒られ
office?
怒
Well,
られた?
that's a great question. I
そ
just
れは
can't
そうで
wait
す。
to
答え
find
もつけ
out.
ないですよ。なるほど。あれこれはもう、下に戻れない。なんか、間違っちゃった。ナレーターさんが焦っていますが、大丈夫なんですか？動揺してる。確かになんか左に行けって言ったりなんやらいろいろ教えてくれましたけど、間違えちゃった。でも戻るしかない。
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of
褒められ
uncompromising
てるんですか
narrative.
ね。クスクソ笑い。
I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
褒められてるのか。あ、戻れる。
Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
怒られてるのか褒められてるのかわからない。
Surely this time Stanley will walk forward into the spooky
め
corridor,
ちゃくちゃ
won't he?
戻りたいんですけど、行ってみますか。
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read
Escape.
Mind Control Facility.
こっちにも行けそうですが、一旦
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
マインドコントロール施設って言ってました。あったボタン。
Now the monitors jumped to life,
Oh.
their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
入るぞ、入るぞ。なんか書いてる。すごいです。
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
なんだこれ。なんか治療、すごそう。これはなんかいっぱいあります。こっちは上に行ける。いや、閉まってます。こっちも閉まってる。これはあっちに行けばいいんですかね。あの階段は何でしょう。なんか暗くて、あ、こっちかな。あ、違う。暗くてあんまりわからない。塞がれてる？塞がれててわかんない。あっちは入れないんですかね。ファクトリーパワー。パワー。失礼しました。で、マインドコントロールアイドル？あ、
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to...
あ、言い終わる前にやっちゃった。まさか触れると思わなかった。
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command.
なんか勝ったみたいです。
Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
そう。外の世界っていうか第二。
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin. The feeling of liberation. the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
今のスタンリーは幸せでしたっていうのが最後のなんか最初のセリフを回収して、あ、クリアしたですか？クリアしましたクリアしたみたいなんですけど、なんかやべ、外がすごいなんかこのゲームはなんかすごい分岐があるみたいで、いろいろやっています。なんかいろいろあるみたいです。こっちはなんかさっきのなんかナレーターさんが動揺したみたいにすごいなんか分岐があるみたいなので、いろいろ探しています。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
なんかめっちゃここから音がするんですよ。
He couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet? Then in that case, we'll continue. But now, here comes the real question. What do you think would have happened if you had told me that you wanted this to stop? Do you think it would have been particularly different? Would I have taken the same idea but rephrased it superficially to fit that answer? Perhaps you never would even have thought of it if I hadn't brought up the issue in the first place. Oh, now think about it. Will it be worth it for you to restart and then come back here just to do the other option? Clearly, this whole gag takes some time. What if the other option is even longer? How long will you spend in total just to have heard all the narration? Oh, and this is Rich. Perhaps you've just played the other option, and now you've come to see what happens in this one. So, what do you think? Which choice was the better one? Imagine if you had selected continue on your first playthrough, how tantalizing it would be not knowing what happens when you pick the other option. Indeed, you are one of the lucky ones. Though if the other option is really miserable to listen to, then perhaps you're not. In fact, I'm just going to say that no one who's listening to this is lucky. Well now, I've built up the other option so much that I'm going to stop talking and leave you to your decision whether to come back here, continue with the game, or just sit in this spot forever and ever. Cheers.
お疲れ様です。これは、ここで終わり？これでリセットできるってことですかね。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet? Well, I don't know how to say this politely, but you could literally just hit escape and restart the game any other time you want, like right now. You could have done it just then. Now would also be an appropriate time to quit. Any of these points and so many, many more, all of them are appropriate. I'm enjoying what seems to be an internal conflict going on where you are literally unable to act on your own desires to
それは
restart the
良かった
game.
です。
So, just to push the envelope, I'm going to try and make this as miserable as possible and see how long you can maintain. There once was a man named Stanley, who people considered so manly.
歌がうまい。
But the truth must be told, he was not very old and was quite particularly gangly. What Stanley liked most was buttons. He pushed them like some kind of glutton.
いい BGM ですね。
In a
チルアウ
meaningless
トぴったり。
but his brain had long ceased to function. Which is why he is in this parable and lives an existence quite terrible. And if you are not strong and
Yes.
keep playing along, you too will become quite unbearable.
Yes.
You too will become quite unbearable.
いい BGM だ。いやー、面白いゲームですね。これもしかして無限ループですか？終わるまで待ちますか？あ、こういうゲームらしいです。リスタートします。じゃあどんどんいろいろやっていきますか。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
安らぎますね。
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
なんかオフィスにしてはなんかなんでしょう、気になる。入れるか？入れない。インプットなんちゃら。入れない。入れない。入れない。じゃあ、右。
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
左のドアってことは右に行って
This
み
was
た
not
ら
the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
叩いた。別の道がこっちにあるんですね。安らぐ。
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
いい部屋ですね。こういうとこだったら、
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
あ、いい部屋ですよね。なんかお友達と遊んだりしたときに、
At this
こうい
point,
う
Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
怒ってますか？いい部屋じゃないですか。この青色のやつと床の
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue. But when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message.
なんかこの青いやつと床の青いやつがすごいマッチしてますし、柱もなんか良くないですか？これはしばらくこの部屋にいようかな。こういう自販機 3.25 ドル。1ドルだいたい100円ですよね、今。120円。だいたい150円とかそのくらい。コールドドリンク。海外のなんか社内の自販機ってこういう感じなんですかね。こういうのありますよね、会社に。で、なんでマグカップを横に押してるんですか？さっきみたいに壁抜けとかできないですか？誰か。待てますか
？But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room. He took the first open door on his left to get back to
戻れ
this.
ない、戻れない。開かない。開かない。開かない。150くらいします。めっちゃ安。確かに。こぐま会社さんこんばんは。おじいくんさんもこんばんは。どっちって言ってましたっけ？こっちでしたっけ？こっちだったかな
？Stanley was so bad at following directions. It's
ごめんなさい。
incredible he
ごめんな
wasn't
さい。
fired
ごめんな
years
さい。
ago.
仕事もこんな感じ。俺、ないか。怒られた。こっちはカードキー。カードキーがいる。まだまだ。いろんなとこが。動いた。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about.
Oh, sorry.
Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
ごめんなさい。
I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
チャンス。なんか、落ちちゃいましたけど。なんか、謝られてる。ナレーターさん可愛いですね。スターは仕事で怒られることないかな。今んとこ怒られたことはないですが、そろそろやばいかもしれません。怒られたら多分泣いてしまいます。こっちは開かない。開かない。
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
こっちは赤いドアって言いましたよね。赤で。
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
なんかついた。なるほど。暗。後ろ側に。
What do we want? What are we looking for?
ナレーターさん可愛いですね。
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Beautiful.
If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy.
これナレーターさんとデートしてるってことですか？幻想的。なんかVR チャットとかにこういうワールドがあって、VR チャットもね、楽しいですけどね。皆さんも、スティフレンの皆様ってVR チャットやったことありますか？私は、綺麗。すごい。VR チャットでなんかこういう、ね、綺麗なところとか結構あるんですけど、 皆様 VR チャットやったことありますかね？こっちは？
No, wait. Where are you going? Right. Where were
はい。
we?
あ、また。緑？なんかこの前VR チャットで星空が見れるワールドに行ったんですけど、やっぱいいです。やったことはですね、PC の戦闘が、確かに VR チャットは重いですからね。初期のライブチャット以来やってない。私もね、なんか、そうそう、今、オキュラスリフト S っていうもう絶版になったやつ使ってるんですけど、そろそろ買い替えたいんですよね。VR チャット機器って高いんですよね。なんか、オキュラスクエストとかあったら安いんですけど、あれ VR チャットだと、なんか、なんだろう、重めのモデルが使えないので、ちょっとね、パソコンって高級品が必要だからな。パソコンね、私もそうそうパソコンが壊れる気がするので、って感じ。めっちゃ綺麗。なんか、本当は今日これの色見て思い出したんですけど、今日本当はなんかスイカゲームっていうゲームをやるつもりで、スイカゲームってゲームが気になったんですけど、なんかさすがになんかこう、パズルゲームを延々とやってる姿を見せてもなーっていう感じがしたので、買ってあって使ってなかったスタンリー・ザ・パレルを、めっちゃ綺麗。スタンリー・ザ・パレル、ウルトラデラックスをやっていました。じゃあ、
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
どういうことですか？この上に何かがある？
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this
ごめんなさい、
from
ご
me.
めんなさい。ごめんなさい。そんなになんかなんかしてる。かわいい。そんなに懇願されると思ってなかった。
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
ヤンデレではないですよね。監禁はちょっと困りますね。
No. What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here.
はい。
You are going to stay here, aren't you?
なんかナレーターさんが可愛く思えてきました。
You heard me before, didn't you? You will die. What about this isn't getting through to you?
ここに何かがあるんですかね。扉開かない。あ、なるほ
Please,
ど。
Stanley, think about what you're doing.
こっから落ちたりすると、なんか、あれ見た、あ、
No!
ダメージ受けた。
Thank God you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room?
他の部屋があるんですか？綺麗。
There. See? This is what you want. This is where we can both be happy. We really can. If we stop moving, we just have to stop moving.
ナレーターさんと二人でセットっぽにいるエンドってことですかね、これ。出ることもできると。ジャンプがね、できたらね。
Stanley, go back. There's nothing good that can come from this.
動きがちょっと遅くなってる。
No, 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 what are you doing? Do you just not believe me? What can I say to convince you?
いや、でも、一応確かめてみたい。あ、ダメージ受けた。
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for?
そんな泣かないでほしい。罪悪感がさすがにあります。
Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
そうですね。一旦チルアート2本目を縫います。一旦チルアート2本目縫います。よいしょ。なんか、これ見ながらついでに話すんですけど、明日どうしようかな。明日どうしようかな。開かない。開かない。開かない。開かない。開かない。開かない。今日は力が強い。今日は力が強い。開いた。開いた。なんか私が話してるときずっと笑ってるのがバレる。やっぱり違う。スリープショットが私一番好きかもしれないです。よいしょ。一気に飲み切ってしまった。あららさんが。ありがとうございます。チルアートのね、最適な場所の、サモさんこんばんは。なんとジャイアンさんこんばんは。今、幻想的な光景を眺めたりしています。で、帰りますか？
No, perhaps not.
いや、ダメっぽい。そんな諦められたような声で言われると。なんか、ナレーターさんもなんか、優しいのか、何なのか、よくわからないですけど、こっから出る方法がないんですよね。さっきの新しい焚き紙ですか？違いますね。
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
そんな泣かないでほしい。次の展開を見に行かないといけない。よいしょ。痛い。
Maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is your.
ナレーターさん。なんか、いろいろごめんなさいっていう感じですが。よいしょ。
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
戻ります。切ない。
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure.
あ、しまっちゃった。
What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for
はい、
that.
芝生まで思いました。
This couldn't go anywhere except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited.
幸せになりたい。
Days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive.
なるほど。
Soon, Very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer.
なんか怖い。
Here it comes.
なになにあ。終わっちゃった。
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
次は、ここら辺はなんか特になさそうなので、
When Stanley came to a set of
右
two
に行
open
って、
doors, this was not the correct
も
way
う
to the meeting room,
も
and
うね、指
Stanley
示
knew
を
perfectly well.
無視することに
Perhaps he
躊
wanted
躇
to
がな
stop
くなっ
by
て
the
しまった。
employee lounge first, just to admire it.
で、従業員ラウンジを駆け抜けて、
Yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
さっきのめちゃくちゃ広いとこも気になりますので。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
ごめんなさい。
Oh, well,
Oh.
look who's got cold feet. Sorry to break it to you, Stanley, but that lift isn't coming back.
来ない。
You'd best either get comfortable right here on this platform, or test your luck by jumping to the floor below. You know what? Looking at it now, it's not that far to the
そうだね、
bottom
ごめん。
floor. I bet you can make it.
なるほど。
Come on. I'm sure you'll survive the jump. Don't tell me you're scared. That's not the Stanley I know. Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it!
なんかさっきはあんなに塩らしかったのに、こっちは何なんですか？やっぱりなんか憎めるような憎めないような。こっちはいけない。落ちるしかないんですかね、これ。さっきのあんな切ない感じだったのに、今は、でも床はコンクリートで、普通に、段ボールとかだったらいけるかな？段ボールが柔らかいことにかけて、よいしょ。あ、ダメだった。
Looks like I was wrong. How clumsy of
私ったらおっちょこちょいじゃないんですよ。いやー、ナレーターさんはなんか、
If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
だいぶ後ろついてきてる。ナレーションがちょっと変わった。後ろからつけてきてる。なんかすごいすごいエーペックスみたいな動きになってしまった。なんか開いてる。さあ、今回も
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
も
well.
う右に
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the
右に
employee
しか行
lounge
かない。
first, just to admire
全
it.
然扉開かないんですよね、これ。
The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
次はこっち行きますか。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
戻っ
Look,
て
Stanley, I think perhaps we've
降り
gotten off
て
on the wrong foot
下に
here.
落ちるとや
I'm
ば
not
い。
your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be
今
difficult,
回は
but the
木梨
fact
乗っ
is
てい
that
ま
the
すか？
story has been about nothing but you all this time.
段ボール以外で落ちそうなとこはないですから
Someone
ね。
you've
これ
forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me,
彼女
I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
彼女バックヤードに来ちゃいましたね。特にないんで、はい、ああ、また暗い。おう、
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up. Oh, no, 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 you can't. Did you just unplug the phone? That wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that? You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check.
確認紙なんだ。
No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action.
そうですか。
How's that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second.
何やってんの？
Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person.
バーチャル YouTuber ではありますが。
I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back sack and crack."
Practice.
Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
宇宙ってすごい広くて、なんか。
Ah, welcome back.
はい。
You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
あ、はい。選択てかそのあ、対策されてる。
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
なるほど。現実ではたくさん選択ができるけど、ここだとなんかこう選択肢が少ないからゲームがバグっちゃうよって話。今英語をなってる私からするとリスニングより聞き取るのまずいです。確かに早口でしたからね。なんか開かない。開かない。開かない。
Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending. The story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world.
なるほど。もう一回やり直してくださいってことですか？ じゃあ、戻って。
Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine.
ありがとうございます。
All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
じゃあ左行ってみますか、ちゃんと。左に。
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
左行って。あ、さっきは言ってたもんね。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked
下行けなくなっ
upstairs
て
to
る。
his boss's office.
あ、トイレもなくなってる。閉まってる。じゃあ選べないようになってるんですかね、ここ。あ、なんか違う。さっ
Stepping
きと。
inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this
さっきとちょっと
until
違
he
う。
saw the door with a voice receiver
はいはい。
next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the
はい。
passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Night Shark 115.
ナイト
Was
シ
this
ャ
the
ーク
code to open the door?
115。
Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the
ナ
courage
イ
to
ト
face
シャ
the
ーク
unknown.
115。
He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
ナイトシャーク、どうやってやればいいんですか、これ。
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
なんか声を出すみたいなのは、インタラクト E。インタラクト追加。オートウォーク。E。いや、特に。
I'm sorry, is there a problem?
喋れ
You
ない。
didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise, we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step.
喋れないですけど。
Okay, fine. You're not going to do it, but you know what?
喋れないん
It's
ですっ
pretty
て。
humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come
怒ら
here?
れちゃっ
You
た。
had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak.
だって
Say something
だって
to me.
左に行けって
Explain
言ったじゃ
yourself,
ない
you
ですか。
coward. You behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the
左に行
task.
けって言っ
Just
たじゃ
follow
ない
my
です
lead
か。
and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
じゃあ右に行きますけど。
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
左に行けって言ったり、右に行ってって言ったり。
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work.
左に
Why?
行け言っ
For
たり、
what?
左に行
What
け
did
言
you
った
get
り、
out of
右に行
that?
って言っ
What
た
did
り
you
なの
think
で
was
さ。
so special about seeing the game undone? Left here like so much garbage. It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
ああ、そうなってる。ああ、えああ。なんかすごいことになっちゃいました。怖い。ないないない。怖い怖い怖い。
I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you.
怖い怖い怖い。
You, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child.
もう私1万歳ですけど。
My story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
これはサニー
Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please.
1万歳ですけど、今日なんか前1万22歳です。あ、終わった。これがエンディング？あ、終わった。これがエンディングなんですか
？Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose.
Please.
Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know.
終わっちゃいました。ユニティ。
The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait.
別のルート探したんですか？ですね。ごめんね、リオイ。リオイって誰？ごめんね、リロイ。ああ、また。ごめんね、リロイってリオイ？ああ、また。あっちには行ったから、この窓とかは行けないですし。で、さっきは、こんなとこありましたっけ？こんなとこなかったような。でも入れなくて。あ、着いた。
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
じゃあ右って言いますか。
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
で、さっき受話器の線を抜いちゃったので、次は電話に出ていますか。
Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first time, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door.
なんか最近全然左の方行ってないですね。
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
で、乗って。
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
明日ね、
I realize that investing your trust in someone else is difficult.
マインクラフト参加型をやる予定ではあるんですけど、そのネザーオートを見つけるまで終わりないみたいなのやりたいですね。
Stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
ネザーオートを見つけるまで終わりませんみたいな。
Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
で、さっきこれ抜いちゃったので、出ます。ガチャ。白い。お。
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Oh?
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife? They want to commit their life to you. I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. Sorry, but you're in my side now.
ガッチャーンコ。壁の。マネキン
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
すごい物理的っていうか透明な。
Stanley is quite a boring fellow.
透明な。
He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
入れんし。
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
ボタンを押すだけの仕事いいな。
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself.
ここがスタンリーの精神世界とかそういう感じなんですかね。
The next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
サインをしてください。これは押した方がいいのか、押さない方がいいのかわからないですが。
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't. Not in the way I want him to. but I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see.
なんかちょっとよくわからないんですが、ナレーターさん、
And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I
暴言を吐かれた。暴言を吐かれた。暴言を吐かれました。ちょっとびっくりしちゃったな。これは前。これ何でしたっけ？早くないですか今回。
Stanley came to a set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left.
じゃあ、こっちのはだいぶやったんで、ちゃんとこっち行きますか。いや、そう、急に暴言を吐かれるとは思いませんでした。ちょっとびっくりしちゃった。はい、で
Yet
す。
there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
そう、階段がありましたね。
Oh no, oh no, 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 not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
なるほど。
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
なんかすっごそうなとこに来ちゃいました。
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over.
私は悪夢から覚めるとき、全身のなんか震えさせて起きるんですけど、悪夢を見るときは、夜中になんか飛び起きてしまって、なんか涙を流しながら起きることがあります。この前ね、なんか昔殴られたみたいな感じで、殴られた時の夢を見てしまって、泣きながら起きてしまった。そういう時があったりなかった。
Stanley began screaming.
スタンリー吠えちゃった。
Someone wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
このゲーム結構ホラーゲームだったりしますか？
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
主人公変わった。
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work.
スタンリー。
But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind.
俊敏サイコロの以上確かに。
And what isn't. It was comforting to think this. And in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better.
いや、そういう思考は良くないと思います。本当に、本当に。他人を見下すのはどういう理由があっても良くないはず。
And by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
いや、救急車呼びなさいよ。いや、性格が良くない。それで良くない。殴られたことあったりなかった。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
それはね、それは置いといて。ごめんなさい。なんて、ニューコンテクト。
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
こっちには進めない。こっち奥。これはしかちょっと。果たして一体何が。ちゃんと柵がついていることに安心感。
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
どうも
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
ちゃんと外に飛び出すね。
Step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
じゃあ 噂では赤ちゃんと戯れるらしい。これここで告白させていただくんですけど、懺悔かな。実はこのスタンリー・ザ・パラレルの2013年のやつを、私実は、ゲーム実況を見たことがありまして、大体知ってるんですよ。実は。言うか迷ってたんですけど、チラ大体寝をしてるな。確かに。でですね、今回ウルトラデラックス版はやったことがなくて、先をしてるゲーム実況だと、今まで知らないふりをしながらやってたんですけど。なのでだからあそこで左に行って、外に飛び出したりとか、そういうのは大体してたんですよ。あそこ、光るとこで戻ったら、レーターさんが話す。細かいとこまでは覚えてなかったんですけど。なので、正直、大体知ってたんですけど。ただ、このウルトラデラックスの新規コンテンツについては本当に知らないので、進んでいきますか。なので、こうやって私がガチャガチャやってたのは、新規コンテンツを探すためにガチャガチャやってたんです。じゃあ、記憶喪失は初見にからいきますね。やめてください。殴らないで。ダメだ。
Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
一体何が
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere? Oh, here we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Do it.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
4コテンツだろう。帰ろうか。なんか、ザ・ジャンプクライクル
Alright, let's see. It's the jump circle?
ジャンプ3、2、1、30。ジャンプできるようになったよ。残りジャンプ30ってことは、ジャンプの限界があったり。
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
これどこに下がってるんだ？こっちはなし。ジャンプ他にも使ったりするんですかね。一応15回くらいやっときますか。一応全部ここで消化しとく。じゃあいいな。ジャンプし放題。し放題ではない。16、15、14、13、12、11、10、9、8、7、6、5、4、3、2、1、はい。あれだけあれだけってことはないですよね、さすがに。
Another elevator.
なんで他で見た？
I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new
あ、でもね、
content?
前座か
If
も
this
ね。
is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait,
あ、まだあ
there's
る。
more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be
ナレー
something
ターさん
else.
かわいいな。
Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
次のコンテンツ、お、今回はちゃんとしてる。これは
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding
Thank
me.
you
You
for
see,
enjoying
Stan,
the new
this is what
content.
happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them
もう
personally
X
accountable.
ですからね、X。
It's my fault, Stanley. I built up
この
too
ゲー
much
ムやってる間
anticipation
に
around the new
Twitter は
content,
X になっ
I'm
てしまっ
afraid.
た。
It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really
なる
about.
ほど。
No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always.
なんかめっ
What do
ちゃ
you
仲良
say,
くなってません
friend?
めちゃくちゃ仲良くなってる。えお、これは。メタゲームの欠点出た。確かに。ここはここ本当に私知らないとこ。なんだこれ。なんか、ゲームの裏。
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
なんすかなんですかおナレーターさんと逃避行の時間。なんかあっちに突き進んだらなんかありそうでしたね。お。
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
何これ古っ何これ古代は
I call it the memory zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
発売日当時の思い出がここにあるんですね。こんなのがあるんだ。追加コンテンツ、ザ・メモリーゾーンちなみに今回私は大体知ってるって言ったんですけど、皆さんもね、いろんなこのスタンリーザ・パラレルタラデ X のいろんな、なんかこう、ルート分岐を楽しんでみてください。なんかさっきをね、入る直前のとこで左行ったりとか、なんかいろいろ分岐あるので、本当にある。
You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013?
2013年、私何してたの？
Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something.
今のゲーム面白いですけどね。いや、ビデオゲームなんか衰退するとかじゃなくて、どんどん進化してますからね。スターリーダ・パーレル。2020インなんちゃらゲームフェスティバル。わかんないけど、なんかこ ばんは、スタンリーだ。神大さんこんばんは、スタンリーです。2013年の思い出。8時3分。2013年、皆様何してましたか？私は2013年は、何してた？何してたの？ 2013年2013年はあんまり覚えてないんですけど、実際のショーの日、なるほど。2013年の私は1万歳と14歳だった頃で、当時1万歳だったんですけど、育ての親と一緒に行って、学校と呼ばれるとこに通ってた時期がありました。2013年だから、多分、あれですね、中学校と呼ばれるとこに通ってた気がします。多分ね。その頃は、なんかこう、いろいろありましたが、話すと長くなるので割愛。スマイルハプンと、いろいろあるんですね。外務の年ですね。外務か。これ実績のやつかな？そう、いいですね。飲みちゃら？空気が綺麗。空気が綺麗。VR ちょっとこういうワールドありますよね。BGMI。なんかこれも学校ってとこに通ってた気がする。いや、めちゃ BGM がいい。
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
めちゃくちゃなんか皮肉を言ってる気がします、なんか。お。これはメモリーゾーンメンテナンス。オリジナル。スタンリーズ・パーリナとは大体良くないですかね。こっちは塞がってて。
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com.
すごい。
The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone. To spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
リメイク版ってなんか変なことになっちゃったみたいなのはちょいちょいありますからね。カーベ9点。じゃあ、ザ・セイオズルーム？ここ入れるのかな？入れるのかな？ジャンプはできないか。こっちだ？これか。
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again.
あいつだ。
Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here?
下に何かある。おー、なんか、用の DLC の裏見つめ。いい DLC もありますからね。まあちょっとまあ、たまに良くないのも、良くないのはないかもしれない。
Oh no. Oh god no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here.
シードレビューが溜まっているよ。
Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
低評価でした。
I could not be bothered to play this game
北
before
上はすごい良かった。
completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
メタゲーソシオ好き。あー、スチームレビューが溜まっている。あー、荒れ果てている。スチームレビュー。私もいつかゲームを作ってみたいんですよね。いつかね、10年後とかに。だからまず絵を描けるようになりたいんですよね。絵を描く練習をしたいんですけど、ちょっとさすがにキャパオーバーしちゃう。なんだ、仕事の資格を取らないといけないので。某ヘフは DLC が。
Okay, let's see what this one says.
ああ。
While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy, honestly you can. Oh goodness, this is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. I can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
いいレビューもありますからね。ちょっとこれあげてないですと思い出ないよ。確かに似ているとこがアニメ版ですね。スチームレビューの墓場みたいなとこに来てしまいました。うわぁ、足元もべちょべちょ。あー、まだ低評価ある。
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button.
Skip?
A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Skip button. おー、できちゃった。
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore,
こ
by
の色が
becoming
ついてない
it,
状
so
態から
on
だん
and
だん
so
色ついてい
forth,
く。
until
確かに。
inevitably, we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once.
めん
So
どくさい
now
もん、
you
正
see,
直面
blah
白
blah
い。
blah 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 blah
ザイ
blah
ガ
blah
スさん、こんばん
blah
は。
blah blah blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, no, until 245.
かわいい
But
ね。
the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years until just
めっちゃ
yesterday,
喋ってる
here
の
and
かわ
there,
いい。
forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so
本当に
much
1
more
時
than
間くらい
forever
喋ってたら
ago,
どうしま
which
しょ
is
う。
why I say the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably, we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah
ナ
blah
レ
blah
ーター
blah
さ
blah
ん
blah
めっ
blah
ちゃ
blah
喋る。
blah
か
blah
わ
blah.
い
We've
い
eaten too
ね。
much and it can't be just yet. No, no, until
ループしてません？
245. But the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes
1
impossible
時間
to
喋り続け
manufacture.
たらもう
It
かわいい
went
ね。
on for nearly 10,000 years
で
until
も
just
このスタンリー・
yesterday,
ズ・ファーレ
here and
ル
there,
なん
forward and
か
back, and
それ
never
くら
a
い
moment
そ
before
れ以上
lunchtime.
なんか
It
本当に
can't be. It's
なん
the
か体調
only
崩す
thing
く
there
らい
is. How many
待
billions
つ
left
実
until
績と
so
かあ
much
るの
more
で
than forever
これ
ago,
もしか
which
した
is
ら本
why
当
I
に
say
1時間とか7
the
時間
story
とかやる
and
可
the
能性もあ
choices,
るんです
or
よ。
what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth,
そうで
until
す。
inevitably, we
確かに。
all until the end of time, at which time
次
everything
ル
all
ー
at
プし
once.
たら
So
スキ
now
ッ
you
プしま
see,
す。
blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, no, until 245. But the
1
logic
時
of
間に4
elimination
時間
working
っていう単位
backwards,
が
the
予されている
deduction
くらいには
therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years until just
知りますか？
yesterday, here and there. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flurry and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Not that, of course, you need a description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly and you can tell me what you think. Okay, so my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are or were or will be at the time of having made said choice. That is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your Greek gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made, in fact, make you more not this kind of person, and in fact do the very opposite? You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices. And that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first, I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe to it. But wouldn't you say that manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone? It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. Ah. See, now you've gotten me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look, I have a method for exactly this sort of situation. And I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor. It is an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations. All right, here we go. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
どっちが勝つんですかね。
Treatise, manifesto. Treatise,
manifesto.
Treatise, manifesto.
これ勝った方が選ばれるってことですよね。
Manifesto. Treatise, manifesto.
ちょっと私も喋ってきますか。
Manifesto. Treatise,
筋肉痛い。どっちなんだいじゃないんですけど。
manifesto,
明日休み
treatise,
じゃないですか。明
manifesto,
日休みなんだ。
manifesto,
ダメだ、ちょっと
treatise,
人が喋ってると集中できない。
treatise. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works.
確かに。
Perhaps that would have been the smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after seeing this exciting new technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will instantly run out and implement a new feature to make it possible to edit one's review.
レビューの編集を可能にしちゃったら、レビューの意味がないじゃないですか。
Or perhaps they'll simply grant this particular user the ability to change their review, so that the feature is not widely used. Look, I would even be okay with Steam altering this particular review so that it reads as something more beneficial, something along the lines of, this game is the best game. Let me start over. How about this? From the ashes of depravity rises the phoenix of quality.
どうしたんですか？はい。成田さんいなくなっちゃった。成田さん。成田さん。
Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes. It's not unendurable by any means, but it's only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just... Wait. How do we get out of here? Where did the door go? Wasn't there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able to leave? Please, I'll take any option at all. I'm asking you to work with me here. We need a door. We need a door of some kind. I can work with any kind of door as long as it can open and lead from one room to another. I'm going to step away for just a moment, and I'm going to try to find us a door. I don't know how exactly to remove a door and place it in a different wall, but I will find a way, I promise. You just need to not do anything. Don't press the skip button. Please, please, please do not press the skip button. Just wait here for me, and don't press the skip button. Got it? Yes, good. I'll be right back.
どうしましょう。これ多分スタンリーのことだから絶対ってわけじゃないけど、本当に多分待ってたら帰ってくるんですよね、多分。待ってたら帰ってくるんですけど、そう、時間が多分12時間とかそんくらいなんですよ、多分。多分本当にここで12時間とか何時間とか待ってたら、多分帰ってくるんですよ。だからちょっとさすがにその耐久はできないので、フリかな、フリー。そう、私この後、マインクラフトやりたいので。明日マインクラフトやる予定なんですけど、参加型。4時とか ?5 時とかから。4時かなちょっと夕方あたりにやって、 本当に誰かが来るかどうかちょっとわからないんですけど、なんだろう。今のうちからちょっと事前にネザー要塞とか見つけておいて。マインクラフトよりおじさん。いや、だって、今のうちからネザー要塞を裏でちょっと見つけておいて、放送の時に突撃しないとちょっと放送がなくなっちゃうんですよ。だからちょっとスキップします。
Stanley,
はい。
Stanley, please don't push the button again.
やっぱ12時間待たないとじゃないですか。
You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer. And my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times. And there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button. And if you keep pressing it, I have no idea what will happen. I have no idea how long I'll be made to sit here. And more than anything else, I don't know how to stop you from pressing the button again. I can't control anything in this room, Stanley. I can't touch, and I have to believe. I have to know that sooner or later, no matter how much I plead with you, you're going to press the button again. Why would you? I've been thinking and thinking, and I don't know what I can do to convince you otherwise. Oh my God.
レビューのせいにされてる。
Those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion matter so much to me? I've never even met Cookie Nine. I have no idea who they are. What would it ever really matter? But here I am. I'm fixating on every tiny negative thing that anyone ever says about me. The merest mention of one of my imperfections, and I become as impetuous as a child, wild and impulsive. I can't help myself. I can't stop myself from lashing out with a vengeful fury to alter and to change and to break anything unbroken, if only it pleases this one person who made a single negative comment.
いやー、それ VTuber にも通じるところがあるかもしれない。
And here I am now stuck in a room, waiting for you to press this button.
なんだろう、やっぱり人間ってやっぱ発信する人って肯定的な意見もすごいいいんですけど、なんかこう否定的な意見に躍起になってしまう部分もあるので、やっぱり今応援してくださってる方を大事にするっていう気持ちを持ち続けるのが大事だなと思いました。ナレーターさんが認識だ。
To see what's next ahead of my need for company, for companions. Surely you'll not be moved by my howls of fitful anxiety that you sit with me and just stay here. Oh, no, 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 I know you too well. You'll be leaving me oh my God. And it's all because of those reviews. Those reviews that I couldn't get out of my head. I just couldn't ignore the negative feedback. Why was it so important for me to fix the problem? Why did Cookie Nine's opinion... Oh, Stanley. You're back. You're back. Oh my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I...
1週間 ?1週間
Well, 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always?
確かに。
Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my words were moving. It was the vessel I needed, Stanley. Not the outcomes, not the story. None of that matters anymore. I'll give it all up. I'll give up every branching path. I'll burn my story to the ground. One single thing I need, and God, I can see now that I need it more than any, is to know that someone else is taking it in. These words that I'm saying, I need to know you can hear. Because maybe, Stanley, maybe, if you
今私が話してるのも皆様、スティフレの皆様が聞いてくださってるっていうのがすごい嬉しいです。ありがとうございます。
Perhaps I've been scared this whole time that if I stop speaking, I'll slip backwards into the silence and be consumed by it. I can't be taken by it, Stanley. I can't lose myself in the stretch of emptiness between you and me. When you press that button, you're still right there, but I know you're so tremendously far away. And in those moments, the emptiness folds itself outward in between the two of us, and I am suspended in its unyielding quietness. I can feel the edges of my reality curdling inward and decaying. I can tell that I am becoming less and less real. Yet to speak to you now, I am alive. I am truly and completely here. I am a being. I am someone. I am something. I am being listened to. I am being recognized. The emptiness between us has collapsed, and I feel right now like I am not a work of fiction. I feel as though I occupy space in this world again, and I have cast a shadow onto the wall. You see what I'm saying, don't you? You can see what this means to me. I'm so clear about it now, Stanley. I feel as certain about this as I've ever felt about anything at all. I feel renewed. I feel restored. And already I can sense the looming silence as you will press the button for the next time. What a terrible dread it strokes in my heart to think of it. To think of returning to such coldness. Come, let us sit in silence together here for just a moment. Let us anticipate it. Let us welcome it. Let us not run from it.
静かになっちゃった。これ作業用 BGM できそうですね。実際これなんか1週間とかやってますけど、本当になんか放置したら変わるんですかね。よいしょ。見え。
Hello, it's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust. Simultaneously, I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revelation for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have squabbled over for so long. There could be no one ending, no singular outcome of events. Not if all events existed in the same moment. And I felt freed. I felt unburdened by the need to manifest a particular outcome. I saw that I could allow myself to exist along all timelines, and that each of them was simply a strand in the web of my being. It was incredible. The spaciousness, the equanimity of the moment, both singular and infinite. For the longest time, this was my experience. And then, this moment passed, and the most unyielding fear I have ever known crept into my mind. And it is this sensation that I have been experiencing now for longer than I could have ever expected was possible. I have been waiting for you. Not that you might save me or do something to fix it, but merely to state for you the plain fact of this manner of existence. I wish you to feel afraid as I do. That perhaps one day this state of mind will consume you as well. And I wish for you to know how excruciating it is, and for you to be in true terror of its eventual arrival. If I can only do this, only this one thing, perhaps it will bring me the smallest moment of peace in the darkness.
私結構人が話してるとき相槌振ったりするように頑張ってるんですけど、 このスタンリーのナレーターさんに対してもすごい相槌を打ってしまう。はいとか、なるほどとか。本当に理解しながら、理解するように頑張ってる。静かにちょっと。ナレーターさんが静かになっちゃいました。これもう連打しちゃうしかないんじゃないですかね。なんかピーピー言ってる。何？爆発はしないですよね。何あれ？火災報知器？でも触れないですかね。
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency.
Skip it. どうですか？静かにちょっと。
The end is never the end.
ああ、壊れちゃった。
End is never the 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 end
怖い。
The end is never 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 the end
怖い怖い怖い。
is never the end is
怖い。ライターさん壊れちゃったし怖い。ああ。さすがに出れるんじゃないですか、これ。出ないしいけない。はい。出れないですね。怖い。あ、光が。ドアがない。光があるのにドアがない。光があるのにドアがない。いつか壁が壊れてくれないかな。ああ、草生えてる。自然が生まれている。なくなってるし。滅びた。一体何が。怖い怖い怖い。草生やしてる。時は経ちすぎたらとはせめ。怖い。ああ。何が。あ、外出れる。これも押せないですよね。草。適切な場所がある。これもさすがにスキップ押せないですよね。 外出れる。ああ。世界が滅びた。Steam のレビューを開いただけなのに。Steam のレビューを開いただけなのに。あ、なんか見える。さあ、ここからグレートジャーニー編が始まりますか。いや、スタンリー・ザ・パーレルグレートジャーニー編が始まりますか。まずどこ行けばいいんでしょうね、これ。あっちになんかうっすら見えるんですよね。あ、迷惑。あ、終わった。ライダーさん、あ、来た。
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
と
simply
いうわ
missed
け
a
で、
memo.
大変なことになって。あ、待って、入もう一回いいですか？もう一回。
Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
せくはせ映画スチームレビューを開いただけなのに。ネオコン、あ、新しいやつだ。そう。なんか、普通に終わろうかと思ったんですけど、なんかまだある。これちょっと秘宝があるんですが、あ、なんかできた。ちょっと誠に申し訳ないっていうか、この私の顔を動かしてるソフトの充電が切れそうなので、顔がちょっと動かなくなります。ごめんなさい。顔が動かなくなります。申し訳ございません。申し訳ないのですが、ですね、アメンボ赤いなゆ。アメンボ赤いなゆ。違う。アメンボ赤いなゆ。あれあれアメンボ赤いなゆ。あれいっか。アメンボ赤い。アメンボ赤いなゆ。アメンボ赤いなゆ。アメンボ赤いなゆ。あれ口がなんか、口が動かない。あ、青春です。違います。なんかね、口が動かなかった、ちょっと。いっか。で、ちょっとあれです、あれ私がちょっとトラッキングできないので、お詫びとしてはなんですが、何か衣装を変えますか？衣装、何か、なんか、浴衣とか、メイド服とか、バニーとか、バニーはないか。なんかじゃあちょっとせっかくだから、なんか、さっき学生の話がいたので、水着はありません。さっき学生の話がいたので、学生の時の私の服になります。
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark. and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
おー。続編が出るんですか?
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
続編だ。427。なるほど、427だから2。特定しました。LM100 とても可愛いです。じゃあ500。特定はやめてください。本当に。
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than
まあ
Ultra
確かに
Deluxe,
確か
don't you
に。
think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an
めっちゃ綺麗。
artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
確かに。まあでも、〇〇2ってこける場合もありますからね。なんか最新こんな感じが。Two doors! あー、ロゴアイデア。じゃあ、スターティン。面白いですね。じゃあ、来ない。
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley
ま
Parable
だ
2
デモ
is
版って
going
こ
to
とです
be,
ね。
but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing
はいはいは
for
い。
it. I figure that if I can loosely
あ、
organize a
かわいい。
handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much
アクショ
more
ン
of
ゲー
a
ムとかして
fuzzy
いませ
magic
ん？
than anything scientific or logical, really.
ザ・ベータ・アウショーフロー。お、これはなんか会議室っぽい。こっちかな？すごい。開発発表みたいな感じですかね。お、いいですね。テーマパークみたいな。新機能新機能左のドア。
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button, which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Jim.
Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of
さん
course,
大
in the
歓迎。
final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role play as
なる
Jim
ほど。
to really
じゃあ今日これ
simulate
ジ
the
ム
full
です。
experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep
はい。
breath,
はい
clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person
はい。
named Jim.
ジムです、ジム。
I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim,
ジム
falling
です。
in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim,
はい。
and as Jim
はい、
watching
ジム
your
です。
dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it
夢
deeply?
崩れちゃうん
Are
です
you
か？
really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please...
Jim.
Yes! You see? What a thrill! What a rush! That was you! The button described you. Do it again. Do it again.
できでき
It hits even harder the second time.
楽し
If
そう。
this were the only new feature in the Stanley
こ
Parable
れ、新
2,
機
it
能
would
これだけは
still
良
be
くない。
worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are.
Jim.
ジム、楽しかった。これだけでね、お金払った価値ありましたかも。価値しないか。 日の本当にさっきのとこだけだったんですね。チームボタン楽しかったな。バボン追加してくんないかな。何あれ。
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable too. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
確かに。
An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, yes, it would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
エピローグボブボブを呼んでほしい。他にはマジグッズも発売。こっちはなんだ。
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical,
確かに。
that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game.
こういう家いいですね。
It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true.
そうですかね。
As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps
そうで
even
すかね。
comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try.
はい。めっちゃ笑ってる。
Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma
バケ
as
ツ
well?
ってそんなにいい
I
の
think
で
that
したっ
just
け？
holding it has made you the slightest
な
bit
んで
more
バケツ？
attractive as a
ぬいぐるみとかだっ
person.
たら嬉し
The
いかもだ
benefits
け
of
ど。
the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they?
まあ確か
All
に。
this and more await you in the Stanley Parable too.
で、バケツはバケツこんばんはバケツこんばんはなんですか？バケツこんばんはなんだ。
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already. Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on
なる
this
ほど、
one.
スクショ
I
キン
think
って
that
こと
in
で
the
す。
new version, the office could use a
これ
bit
映
of
像だから見て。
decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
さあ。開かないよ。選べるんだ。こっちかな。
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion,
友達と遊んで、はい、ペシェってバケツを伝えたら嬉しくないですか？ものによりますね。
Happy 12th birthday, step niece, it is.
結局そっちかい。結局そっちなんですね。めっちゃ。
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
こっちはめっちゃありますね、いろいろ。ここから一旦じゃあ着替えますか？次は、じゃあ、そんなにそんなに変わらない。これスカートの服なんですけど、私はね、無性別なので、いろんな服が着れるので、性別とか関係ないので、いろんな服を着ていた時期が。
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
ダメですかね。ダメか。これもダメ。このバケツは何に使うんですかね。
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
こっちはやばいのなんちゃらなんちゃらなんちゃら。
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
これ、私どこにいるんだ？見えない、見えない。これは私はどこに進んでいるんだ？前に進ん、あれ私がどこ？いや、前に一応進んでいいんだ。これ。ゲット。ゲットした。コレクトしましたね。
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
こっちはなんかどこに行ったのかどこまで行ったのか。
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well.
ジャンプサークル。
Oh wait, you already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
引き継ぎ式なんですね、これ。ネームやった。こっちはやった。ジャンプサークル。無限の穴？無限の穴。で、こっちにコレクターのやつがあって、エグジット。迷いますね、結構。ジャンプサークル出口。こっちは
Alright, have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
まだ見てないかも。あとなんか見て。無限の穴ってなんだ？出口ジャンプサークル。無限の穴？こっちかな？こっちかな？無限の穴ってなんだろう？あれか。セッティングワールドチャンピオン。セッティングワールドチャンピオンがめっちゃ閉まってる。めっちゃ閉まってるし、めっちゃ日本語。無限の穴はこっちですね。あれ、無限の穴ってもうやったのかな？こっちは行って、こっちって行きました。私こっちから来たんですよね。あれ？
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever.
ポータルでやりましたね、ポータル。ポータルってゲームがあって。お、ポータルってゲームで、上、銃で撃った場所をなんか、ジェオさんお疲れ様です。じゃまた明日とかにやります、多分。なんかポータルとかで、こっちに、ワームホールみたいのをつなげて、こっちにワームホールみたいのをつなげると、無限にループしてずっと落ちるっていうのをやっていました。ジャンプ。おー、すごい。おー、すごい。
Since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
へー。ごめんにはお、いや、本当、ウィシさん、本当、ありがとうございます、本当に。お詫びって、その配信は見るのは本当、自由なので、お詫びとかするのは本当大丈夫です。本当になんだろう。なんか自分の好きな時に、体調のいいこと、全部、見なくても、なんか、なんて言えばわかんないですけど、とにかくそう、お詫びって、お詫びじゃなくて、なんかこう、
From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely?I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem.
怒られた。
Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
これしばらく行ったらまた怒られそう。どんかまた怒られそうな感じしますが、いつもの言いますか。
I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel. Oh, for heaven! You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much.
あと落ちるのは
A
楽
normal
しい。
person would have said, "Yep, that's an infinite hole right there. It goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of. Oh, did the hole seem even shorter to
で
you
す
this
ね、
time?
短かった。しかも
I
タバ
couldn't
コして
help
る。
but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above.
はい、わかりました。
Had enough? I'm positively thrilled.
はい。
Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole.
あ、ま
If
た
this
そこが
starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay. Yes. I'm starting to become extremely certain
近くなっ
that
て
the
きてます
hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less
なる
infinite.
ほど。
I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and
全体的
marketing.
軸緩
What's
い。
going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something.
はいはい。
Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter. Well, there it is. The shame of my lie has come to haunt me. Not only is the hole not infinite, but it's barely even a hole at this point.
あ、
It's more of a concavity, or even a very
ア
aggressive
グレッ
divot.
シブですね。
How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed
浅す
with
ぎた
holes,
墓
but
穴。
at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch. Oh, who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on.
あれ?
Is the, teleport button not working? You sure? Well, I mean,
あ、地上だからですかね、判定が。
Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else.
喧嘩しちゃった、また。
Take care, Stanley. I hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity
together. 出れないよ。これなんかジャンプサークルのあれが余ってたらできたんですかね。しばらく待ってみますか。早速でもしますか。なんかなってますね、なんか。お？穴が少しずつ下に下がっている。穴が、しかもナレーターさんはどっか行っちゃいましたし、穴はどんどん下がってますし、テレポートボタンは効かないですし、すごい神秘的になってきちゃった。視点を変えるカーンじゃないんですよ。あらたたた。私を笑わせないで。カーンが面白すぎる。面白すぎる。私、 私こういうなんか、こういうカード音にすごい弱くて。これは経由企画で作ろうかなと。私こういうなんか笑っちゃう。もうさすがに。ダメだ、このアングル面白すぎる。このアングル面白すぎる。視点を変える。認識を変える。ダメだ、面白すぎる。面白すぎる。面白すぎる。名作だ。名作だ、これ。これだけで遊べる。これだけでよかったんだ。スタンディーザパーレル最高。これだけで一生遊べる。もうこの顔最高。なんかよく見たら可愛くなってきたかも。だめだ、面白すぎる、これ。まだあるんだ。めっちゃ種類ある。なるほど。ダーンじゃないんですよ。ただこれ連打できるようにしてほしかったですね。めっちゃ種類あるんだけど。はい。めっちゃある。なかなかいい BGM はない。じゃあ、あなたの現実を変える。はい。色が変わった。赤くなった。セピアになった。ちょっと濃くなった。紫。青くなった。なるほど。やばい、どんどん機能が追加されていく。そうですね、一番好きな色はこれかな。元気のいい曲ないかな。違う。あ、ループしてきた。なんかないい曲ないんだよな。なんかいい曲ないかな。曲がな めっちゃ変わってるんだけど。めっちゃ可愛いんだけど。これ、背景変わってる？じゃあ、あなた、なるほど。外が変わってたんだ。はい。エジプト。なるほど。赤色。土。じゃあ、次は。あなた自身を変える。変わった。これは何？視点を変えてみますか？逆さになった。なるほど。デフォルメ帳。ワッチョ 2D。アニメチック。ラフ画？カンデーシーが死にが。普通になった。はい。ただいてが爆笑してたんですけど。
Because this hole is just so darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the hole? From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole. And I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back. Toodle pip.
じゃあね。これまた沈むんじゃ。終わった。ここからなんだ。
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
バケツはこのままなんです。じゃあもう大体回ったから。バケツは持ち越しなんだ。ナレーターに安心感がした。出口。どうですかね。なんかデザインが笑いすぎて喉が疲れちゃった。
So Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new
笑いすぎて
features?
喉疲
Yes,
れ
I
た。
know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single
ま
coherent
た穴があ
video
る。
game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment.
はいはいはい。
I'll arrange these new features together and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a
な
meaningful
るかな。
gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it
はい。
is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
おー。
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay.
別アレンジ。
Yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go.
笑いすぎて疲れちゃった。まあ、穴を2つに増やしたのはいいアイデアだと思います。
This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. with respect, with care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could, but it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
いいですね。
This is the story of all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
これどうなってんですかね。
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it? Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
あまりにやばいよ、確かに。
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever.
バケツめっちゃ重要です。
Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion and lifelong friend. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
いや、よかったです。あとなんだ、追加機能。追加機能は面白い。
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him, always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Another miniature Stanley figurine. There really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
あとはさあ、バケツくんと一緒に行く。どうなる？
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
バケツくんがいることに何かエンディングが変わったりするの？
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears. Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Stanley to buckets.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
ちなみにこれ一瞬入って戻るとまた別ルートに行くんですけど、一旦普通になります。
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it.
His
own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
さあ、バケツくんエンドはどうなるんでしょう。
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over?
バケツくん。
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support. What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to
バケツ、
himself.
このバケ
As
ツ
long
くん
as
は
I have
何な
my
んですか？
bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
バケツくんがいると強制バッドエンドなんですか？どうしてですか？いやー、ってわけでこれ、またバケツくんルートなんですかね。
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
なるほど。じゃあちょっとバケツくんがずっといるので、これ続編なんだ。これ、2になるんだ。はい、聞きたい。確かに。それでは、スタンリー・パール2でしたが、途中大爆笑。途中めちゃくちゃ面白かったですね。神ゲーでしたね。というわけで、最後にお知らせがあります。本日がもう終わるんですけど、チルアウト様のスポンサードが終了となります。チルアウト様本当にありがとうございました。で、明日の予定はマインクラフト参加型をやる予定です。今度こそ絶対にネザーオーと見つける。それでちょっと笑いすぎて喉が動いてないです。はい。というわけで、お休みします。それではまた次回お会いしましょう。バイバーイ。皆さんもぜひやってみてください。お疲れ様です。ありがとうございます。